Hey guys, Mr. McKinney here, just wrapping up part two of our tips for college. So this next slide talks about managing your independence, which I think is a really good set of conversations to potentially have with your family. So I encourage you guys before you go off to college to have some conversations with your parents and your family about how you will handle the transition into your new independence. Because one of the biggest parts of undergrad is developing your own independence and a bigger sense of responsibility. And if your parents don't let you do that, then you'll have to do it out after college, and it's much more challenging at that point. So talk to your family. How often are you guys going to check in with each other? Your parents may want to check in with you 5 times a day, and you want to talk to them once a week. So find a compromise in there. Some of you guys are still going to be living at home, or you're going to live at home during the summer in between semesters. Do the house rules change? Because most of the time they do. Most parents will treat their children differently when they're in high school and when they're in college. So have a conversation. Does curfew change? Do the rules on guests change? So talk to your parents about that. What about financial responsibilities? What are you going to be responsible for? What are your parents going to potentially help you out with? What kind of loans are you going to be taking on? Have those conversations ahead of time so you know what your expectations are throughout the semester. This next one, like I didn't have to deal with when I was in college because it didn't even exist. But talk to your parents about whether or not you'll give them your login info so they can check your grades and stuff like that. Ideally, they're not. Ideally, at this point, you have taken on some ownership of your own educational journey, and you're the one who's responsible for your grades. If you're still relying on your parents to check in on you, you're going to have a tough transition into the working world because at some point you will have to be responsible for yourself. That being said, if your parents are providing a lot of financial help, they may want more input, and you guys will just have to navigate that conversation. Also, on the same line, like how much of a say are they going to have in a decision like your major? In general, parents want their kids to pick majors that will provide financial flexibility down the line, but you're the one who's going to have to do this job for the next 40 or 50 years. So make sure it's something that you're going to be okay doing that. Again, if your parents are financially supporting you, they should have some input. But at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to college, you're the one who's going to classes, so you should have some input as well. So have that conversation ahead of time. And keep in mind that the transition to college is tough. So don't try to do everything on your own. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Find mentors on campus, upperclassmen, RAs, stuff like that. And there are lots of resources that you're already paying for. So find the wellness center and take advantage of it. Those fees are already looped into your tuition, so you're paying for them whether you use them or not. A couple last minute miscellaneous thoughts. So like money. You can spend lots and lots of money in college in addition to your tuition, but you can also not spend all that money if you're careful. So even though you probably applied for some scholarships before you got to college, don't stop once you get there. There are a lot of scholarships for existing students, and applying for scholarships is one of the highest paying jobs in the world. If you spend an hour or two applying for a $500 scholarship, you just got paid like $250 an hour. And there's not very many jobs that pay $250 an hour. Potentially look for an on-campus job or an off-campus internship or something like that. But keep in mind that your academics should be your number one priority. So don't get a job that's going to prevent you from performing at your best academically. Make a budget and stick to it. And then for textbooks, don't necessarily buy the textbook before you go to class. A lot of professors will list a required textbook because the university requires them to list a required textbook, but then they don't even use the textbook. So either talk to people who have taken the class before or show up to the first day of school. Because I had a lot of professors when I was in college that I would show up to the first day of school and they would just tell us that we didn't really need the textbook. So some classes you will need to buy the textbook, but a lot of them you will not. You can get by either sharing, or you may not even use it at all, or you may only need a chapter that you can get online or something like that. If you are going to buy a textbook, I highly encourage you not to buy a new textbook. Find somebody who took the course last semester or last year and buy it from them, or just borrow it from them. And keep in mind, some professors write their own textbooks and then make you buy their own textbook, but they may not even use it. They just tell you that you have to buy it. So be careful with textbooks. You can easily spend $1,000 per semester on textbooks, but you should be able to get by for $200 to $300 or less if you do it wisely. And I thought this was a great piece of advice. There are all kinds of events that will offer free food when you're on campus. They get sponsored by local businesses or different organizations, and they bring food. And at the end of the night, they either throw that food away or give that food away. So show up to the event and bring Tupperware. It won't happen every single time, but my guess is that more often than not, at the end of the night, you can take home some of that food with you. I went to so many events where they were just trying to give that food away at the end. So I thought that was a really cool idea. And the last slide, or the last thing we're going to talk about, is make sure you're giving yourself a realistic set of expectations. A lot of students in high school think that it's normal to just go to college and then 4 years later walk out of college with a degree. But that is not at all normal. Less than half of undergraduates get their bachelor's in 4 years. So some people do, but they are in the minority, not the majority. Nationwide, we have a 62% graduation rate, and that's measured 6 years after starting, not 4 years. So that means that 38% of students that start college have not finished 6 years later. So I bring this up to let you guys know that there will be struggles. You will have speed bumps along the way, and that's okay. That's normal. Everybody has those. Most people experience them in college. Some people experience them in high school. Some people experience them after high school or after college. The most successful people in the world are not the people who never struggled. They're the ones who respond to the struggle with the most resiliency. So you will struggle. It's not going to be smooth sailing the whole time for the vast majority of y'all. And just keep in mind that that's okay. Like, there are lots of support systems. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And don't beat yourself up if you do struggle or you do have a bad semester or you end up having to drop a class or something like that. It's okay. You guys can do this. I hope you guys have an amazing summer, an amazing life after high school. Reach out if you ever need anything. Have a wonderful day.